Welcome to Linux for the Rest of Us, episode number 40. The show where we like to take Linux and present it to you in a nice, healthy way. I never said it like that, Dor. How does that sound? That sound
definitely sounds kosher.
Okay. We talk Linux and like I say in the past shows, if you're a novice, intermediate, advanced, or expert, we think you'll get something out of the show. We kind of cover all areas and try to just deliver as much and pack as much good Linux stuff into one show as we possibly can. And it's all over the place as far as what we bring to you. I mean, there's distro information, there's Linux news, there's Linux games. We try to mix it up and just keep it interesting. Then we'll read some emails and play back some voicemails from you guys, which you are welcome to send at any time. We'll give the information at the end of the show on how to do that. But first, let me introduce the man, the door-to-door geek, Steve McLaughlin, the man who brings the goods.
Hey, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Dor. How about you?
I'm doing okay, but I can't stop sweating. But that's, I think, some 24-hour bug I'm in the middle of getting over. And I had a friend point out to me that I was demoted.
What do you mean?
That I'm no longer the maven in your eyes. I said, don't take that too hard. It's just Steve's a busy guy. He has a lot of things on his mind. I haven't been demoted.
No, you haven't been demoted. I will call you the Maven at will. I mean, you give me the word, and you're the Maven. You are. Come on, you are and have been always the Maven. You'll continue to be the Maven, and from now on, I will call you the Maven.
Oh, that's okay. One thing I do have to say though is, I am a parent. I have 2 kids. I love my kids. I love kids in general.
Right.
As long as they're not evil. I would happily pay $150 extra for a plane ride where there's no kids.
Oh.
Just making a comment towards your episode appearance on the Bro Chachos.
He's referring to the brochachos.com. That's Lalo. If you guys listen to Podnutz Pro, and he's also on Android App Addicts and even on Nuts at Night every once in a while. He has a podcast called The Brochachos, where him and a couple of buddies get together and they talk as if you're sitting there at a bar just having a chat with those guys, and that's the way the podcast goes, and it's really fun. And you got to listen to episode 4 to hear what Dor's referring to, but it's quite interesting, and I would too. I would pay $50, Dor. I wouldn't go to $150. I
would pay more than I believe parents would pay more.
Because
they know day in, day out, just give me a break. Just give me a break.
Okay, maybe parents would. It's a good call.
I personally think they would. And I'll say Latino Heat, White Lightning, and
Black Thunder?
Black Thunder?
Dark Thunder?
They're entertaining. I'll say that. I myself consider it's hard for me to be a brochacho since I'm a married man with children. It kind of takes away from my brochachiness.
Well, we'll see. You might end up being on that show. Who knows? I think you should be, personally.
It's good stuff. I'll say that.
Definitely check it out.
Okay. Honestly, Steve, first thing I wanted to mention, it's really hard for me to really, truly, and honestly explain this in any kind of a timely manner. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen.
Dor, when has that ever stopped you before? I'm telling you right now.
Well, I'm not going to say it stopped me, but it definitely made my task a little harder.
Okay.
What this is, it's a simple web page at edubuntu.org/weblive.
Edubuntu.
Edubuntu.
Oh, no, you got it. Edubuntu. My bad.
Yeah. And what it is it's called WebLive.
Yes.
It's intended for like educational use. And by educational, I don't mean classroom per se use, but for someone to learn. And it does offer 4 environments. 2 of them are Edubuntu. 2 of them are Ubuntu. The Ubuntu is 10.10 and 11.04, and the Ubuntu is 11.04 with 2 different processor cycles, I believe what it is.
But wait, what is this? So You go to Ubuntu and you can do what? Like, why would you even want to go there?
Okay. This is the perfect place to go to where if you need right now,
Right.
a perfectly clean, fresh install of Ubuntu, or you want to have let somebody see what Linux is with zero work, zero hassle, zero download, zero pain and suffering. What I'll say is there's currently a limit of 10 users to this system. So this really is still small and not popular.
So, but it allows you to run Ubuntu from somebody else's computer as if you're running it on your own desktop.
Yeah.
Okay. So even a noob who just wants to try Linux, this would be the perfect thing for him to try.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. It asks you for full name, login, password, confirm password.
Okay.
This is not something you have to register for. You just make it up as you go. You can enter any information you want. You go ahead and enter it, and what it utilizes is two technologies. One of them is Java, which some people extremely hate, but you do what you got to do. The other one is a technology called No Machine, which I learned about actually from Russ Winter, the Techie Geek, at the techiegeek.com. I actually learned about it from him 1+ year ago at least.
And so
One second.
Yeah, you do your thing. So what Thor is doing is basically logging in. All you do is go to Ubuntu, and from the site, if you have Java loaded, you can just launch Ubuntu, and it's running on some dude's machine, some dude's server somewhere, and it allows you to run a full instance of Ubuntu. So that's what we're loading up right now.
Yep. And what No Machine is, think of it as log me in, go to assist, Makogo, one of those kind of technologies. It's a remote desktop system. So what just happened that quickly was on the other side in Germany, a virtual machine was spurred with those credentials I gave it, of that first name, last name, username, and password. It was then spawned, and then I was connected to that session over No Machine, over the internet, and now I am in a true Ubuntu 11.04 computer.
And we know it's 11.04 because of the lenses, right?
Yeah, from the lenses and the application menu inside. Now, if anyone is familiar with virtualized remote environments, you'll know it is not going to be lightning fast speed. There is a little bit of a delay, but it's really, you're not doing this for performance. You're doing this
testing, right?
For testing and for the experience of running Ubuntu for someone who's brand new to it. Someone who's either brand new to it or just interested in it. And one thing the guy did that I find to be very nice is he loaded Ubuntu restricted extras by default, which means as soon as you load this up, you are going to have support for Flash, Java, QuickTime, WMV, WMA, MP3, DVD, Shamil Shamazel.
Why would he go through such a thing? Why is he doing this?
I think the main goal is to just make it more accessible for people to experience what Ubuntu is. My logic is there's a lot of countries around the world where they have bandwidth caps. And by bandwidth caps, I don't mean 250 gig bandwidth caps. I mean very severe, 15 gig, 20 gig bandwidth caps for the entire month. And I've actually heard of some places having less than that, having like 2 gig a month bandwidth. A Ubuntu download is 768 meg. That could be a high percentage of your month's allotted bandwidth.
Right.
With this, you can experience Linux from the internet without having to download the whole ISO and go through a whole bunch of work, you know, to download the ISO, burn the ISO, and do all the extra stuff you have to do. Now, I'll say that this isn't a VM. It isn't seamless. It isn't perfect. I've noticed a couple video artifacts that don't happen right, like here on the side. This bar should not be visible right now when this is full screen.
Oh, I see.
So this isn't a perfect environment, but it is definitely enough to get people used to, accustomed to how Ubuntu itself works, some of the basic features of it. I personally just think it's cool. I'm not going to lie. I think it's cool to just see, experience, use, show off, and to be honest, utilize, because there is going to be a time where I'm going to need a fresh install to do something really quick. And there's no reason why I can't hop on this, take something, whether audio, video, anything, do something on this environment, and then email it to myself.
Huh. That's pretty amazing.
I'll say,
yeah, go ahead.
I'll say, if you want to, for instance, host a torrent file, and you don't want people to see where the hosting IP comes from, if you do it through this, it might show up as being posted from Germany. I don't know.
It's interesting. If anybody is not getting video this week, I'm really going to I'm bearing down on the video, and the reason I'm saying this is because just while he was explaining that, if you weren't watching what he was doing, you're missing a lot of how cool it was, what exactly was happening. He was just navigating through Ubuntu, going through the lenses and the menus and everything on this machine in Germany from his desktop, and then he just closed it down, boom, and it's closed. So he's back to his normal desktop. It was just that fast. I'm going to have all videos for all the shows uploaded starting this week, edited with titles and music and stuff like that. So they will be up on podnutz.com very shortly as we do them this week. This will be the first week we'll really make the videos nice and easily accessible to you. There's going to be feeds. There's going to be it's going to be on iTunes and different podcast directories. So trying to make the videos accessible to you. So, hey, audio is fine. I'm still going to definitely cater to the audio guys, and don't think we're ever going to stop doing that. I mean, audio is like basically where we're founded. So don't worry about that. But if you do want to watch video, I'm going to make it a little easier for you.
Yep. And first off, I can't say thank you enough, because video is one of those things, when you want it, you need it, you got to have it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what I can let people know is what my goal will be as a co-host on the show is to try to put spots where I think ahead of time video is key to the presentation part of it. I'll try to put it in the very beginning or the very end of the podcast, so you don't have to sort and search through it if the video is indeed an afterthought.
Right. That's smart and nice of you.
Well, I know, like, when I'm listening to a certain podcast and, you know, Lalo says you should check out the video, I would like to know I don't have to skip for 30 minutes trying to find
right
video.
No, he demands that you go home and immediately watch the video. He doesn't ask.
Yes, you're right. he does. And a couple times my wife literally thought there was something wrong with me because I couldn't stop chuckling for like 30 minutes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The next thing I want to talk about is definitely not as flashy or as futuristically cool, but it's still cool at the same token. And this is a life hacker link.
Okay.
To which I got to say that CA life hacker tip, I think, might be the most valuable tip I think I've ever heard of for my sanity.
Yeah, somebody called into us and said, would you guys stop complaining about life hacker? Here's how you get to view the life hacker as of old, the life hacker of old. You go to ca.lifehacker.com and it's the old site. So there you go. There's a tip for anybody who didn't get that. Right.
And me and Steve D and everybody was like, what? No, I don't think. Oh, wait, it is cool.
Yeah. Well, the guy didn't actually say that in the voicemail. He wasn't saying like, would you stop complaining? He nicely told us that there's a tip. So whoever did call, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And what this is, I'll say first and foremost, I couldn't test because my rock solid day-to-day Ubuntu install that I use is actually a 4-year-old install. I preface that with the file system on it is 4 years old. It has 4 years of wear and tear on it. The operating system I reinstall on it. With that said, people in the Windows world, unless you have a 9-year-old install, you always have NTFS. And if you do have something really, really old, then you have FAT32. Well, my 4-year-old install of Ubuntu has, it's called EXT3. Whew, brain was fried there, Steve. I think it's a sweat getting to me.
It happens.
And what I'm about to tell you about is only applicable for EXT4. There might be a way I can upgrade it in place from one format to another format. I'm not a fan of upgrading file systems that are in place, so I'm not even looking for that. But I will say I did tweet this, and I got 2 positive responses from it, just saying it seemed like it worked. I now have I took that 4-year-old, I blew it away. I put EXT4 on it, but it's a very fresh install. So this is not a fair thing to test. What this says it can do is it can take an EXT file formatted boot partition, and it can change your boot time in about half. Best case scenario.
Really?
Can cut it down by half.
Let me just read the name of the article for people who didn't get the notes yet. It's on Lifehacker. It's E4RAT. Seriously cuts down on Linux boot time with a few simple commands. That's E, the number 4, rat, all one word. Go ahead.
Yep. And I'll say on their step 1, it's wrong. Okay. On their step 1, they tell you to add a line to the grub boot menu. Not a line. Go to the end of the kernel line and append to the end of the line. And what it tells you to append is init equals /sbin/e4rat-collect. It only takes a second if you're in Ubuntu to go to the places and search for files to figure out very quickly that is an invalid path for Ubuntu. Now, with that said, Debian, and more precisely Ubuntu, seems like they have a nasty habit of doing whatever in the hell they feel like doing. So they constantly change default installation paths. The actual path on Ubuntu, it should say init equals /usr/share/e4rat. I'm 99.9999% sure that's what it is. And through step 2, and you have to do that same modification with the corrected file path and so forth and so on. So I did not figure out that part until I figured out, wait a minute, this is only for ext4, not ext3, so I really couldn't test it all the way. But I'll say what this essentially does is it does what the defragging tool in Windows Vista claimed it did. Okay. Which I can tell you from my personal experience, it did not do whatsoever. It said not only could it defragment or make your files contiguous, but it could also evaluate what applications you ran and put those key applications more towards the front of the drive.
I see.
I've never heard of good things happening from Windows when you tried to implement that.
Right.
But I believe in Windows 7, stop that. And they just do a defrag and that's it. What this does is you run this command at boot, where you append it to the boot sequence. It runs a command that basically monitors all hard disk activity for 2 minutes because they don't expect your boot to take longer than 2 minutes.
Okay.
On most hardware, that's a fair assumption.
Right.
Then what it does is it basically stores all that hard disk activity to a log file. That's in step 2. And then step 3, it actually takes the entries of applications in that log file and it physically moves on the disk where all of these applications and services are located at on the disk. If you look at the very top of that article, you'll see two bar graphs.
Okay.
The top one has a lot of red. The bottom one has an okay amount of red, and it seems like a lot more blue. The blue is more hardcore activity on the processor, like dual processor, really pinging, hitting hard, high percentage of use. So what it does is it's basically taking a long drawn out sequence of like hard disk activity where you look at your hard disk and you see flash, 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 and that takes, let's say, 2 minutes, and it's taking that and it's turning it into for 1 minute. So it's giving you, the end user, the illusion of, wow, my computer's all of a sudden quicker. It actually isn't. It's just your file system, and those files are now optimized for boot time.
It looks like it cuts it like more than halfway.
They claim more than half. I will say it's more than likely for 90% of the users, you might see a 30 to maybe 40% increase.
It's
and
still
if you
pretty
have,
awesome.
don't get me wrong, it's good. But if you have like a 3-4 year old system and you have loaded all kinds of stuff on there, you could see a 50% plus speed improvement going by these results. And that to me is impressive.
Wow. Very cool, man. I like that.
Yeah, that definitely caught my eye because I'm one of the guys, I install everything. So any excuse I can find to speed up a boot is good.
Sure.
This next one, to be honest, I don't remember who it was who sent me this link, and I'm very sorry I can't remember who it is.
But you give them full credit.
But I give them 100% credit. This is a Windows-only tool.
Yes.
I state that. It might work in Wine. I have no idea. But it's called Yummy. Your universal multi-boot installer. And if you go to pendrivelinux.com, which I gotta say, it's really a fun website to go to. When I was a distro-holic, I'll say, and I just wanted to install another distro and another distro and another distro, and I want to install another one and just try them all out.
Yeah.
They tell you in very simple terms how to, on Windows or Linux and sometimes Mac, how to install almost any given Linux distribution on a USB thumb drive, some kind of portable media, in persistent and non-persistent modes.
What's that mean?
I knew you were going to say that. I always get this backwards, but I'm going to go with it. Persistent mode means it's like a CD to when you reboot, all your changes are gone. I know I have it backwards now. Non-persistent is when it's like a CD and you boot up to it, make all your changes, reboot, and all your changes are gone. Persistent mode, is when you can boot to it and all of your changes you do are saved back to it. So the next time you boot to it, everything's back to how it was. Basically similar-esque to a hard drive install.
Awesomeness.
And what this tool is that they're talking about, Yummy.
Y-U-M-I is how they spell it.
Right, and I gotta say, most of the time, the names we talk about, Steve, are kind of bad. I personally think that's a good name. It might not be descriptive, but it's a good name.
It's all right.
What this allows you to do is this allows you to create a multi-boot USB drive or thumb drive. So it can contain multiple Linux operating systems. You can have your Knoppix, your Puppy, your Ubuntu, all of them on a single USB drive or thumb drive with very minimal effort and, let's say, no hardcore expertise on Linux itself even.
Wow. So you can install multiple distros on a flash drive, and using Yummy, it gives you like a boot menu. You could boot to any one of the ones you want.
Well, this does both. This is a Windows application to help you take those distributions and put them on the thumb drive. And then when you boot up, I believe it uses, if not grub for DOS, it uses just flat out grub. And then it will just have all of the operating systems you put on there right there as a selectable option.
That looks pretty amazing.
It's definitely cool. I knew it was possible to put multi-distros on devices for a while, but it was never something I could flaunt about because it was not an easy task to duplicate.
Right. And this makes it easy?
This makes it very click and run. You know, I don't know how good their support is for DOS systems or non-Linux systems like Ultimate Boot CD for DOS or SpinRite, those kind of tools. But I know for the Linux ones and even a Cronus, a Cronus boot CD is actually a Linux environment.
Okay.
So you could even load that to here as well, technically.
Neat.
Yeah.
And did you know Yummy stands for your Universal Multi-Boot Installer?
I don't want to pull a Steve D, but yeah, I kind of said that in the beginning of this.
Oh man, Dora, I'm sorry. I really ate it on that one, didn't I?
That's okay, Steve. I really was contemplating not calling you out on it and saying that's interesting, Steve.
No, you did the right thing. All right, keep going. I'll keep my mouth shut. Go ahead.
And I'll say from another tool we talked about in the past, Sardu. I believe it's SARDU.
Yes.
You go there, you can get a multi-boot tool for all kinds of AV tools. It isn't completely clean or perfect, but you can go to Dr. Web, Bitdefender, AVG, Kaspersky. There's even more I can't think of. AV tools, you could download those ISOs, put them in here. They're all Linux. I guarantee you, without a shadow, every single one of them is Linux. So you can use this to make a very wide assortment of tools on one single USB disk.
Awesome.
Or flash drive.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is the kind of tool I'm really happy to see it's finally come around, and you know, it's putting its feet in the ground, and people are going to start, I think, using it and be more comfortable with it.
I think so too. If it's this easy, it's much more easily confrontable.
Yeah. The next one, talk about, Steve, I'm going to give you a link to linuxfoundation.org, but it's really the YouTube video that's part of the way down that I wanted to share with people.
Sure.
If you want to watch it now, we can. I believe it's only a 3-minute video. I was kind of impressed at some of the stuff they mentioned in the video, and honestly, the simplicity of the video was what I really liked. It didn't try to overwhelm you with very pompous attitudes or statements.
Is it something that the audio guys will be able to hear?
I don't know.
Here we go.
I didn't set up your rig.
No, I mean, not like that. I mean, does it have audio in the video?
Oh, it's completely a voiceovered. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. It has a complete voiceover for the whole video. The video is really just a supplement to the audio.
All right, let me play it and see what happens here. I think everything's set up for audio. Playing now. Here we go. Come on now. It just stops. It just stops right there. All right, let me give it one more shot. I was trying to play it on a full screen. Let's see what happens here. From the Linux Foundation, the title of this YouTube video is The Story of Linux, commemorating 20 years of the Linux operating system. Sit back and enjoy. 3 minutes, 39 seconds. Story of Linux.
Our story begins 20 years ago.
Here we go.
Boris Yeltsin was sworn into office.
It's not working, Door.
I'm sorry, Steve.
I don't know why it's not loading. That was looking pretty damn good, too. Let me give it one more shot. I'm going to hit play again. Let's see what happens.
20 years ago, Boris Yeltsin was sworn into office. Jay Leno replaced Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. And cell phones were really, really big. It was August of 1991, and a 20-year-old computer science student named Linus Torvalds sat down at his computer in Helsinki to post what is now one of the most famous entries in computing history. Hello, everybody out there. I'm doing a free operating system, just a hobby, won't be anything big and professional like GNU. It probably will never support anything other than AT hard disks, as that's all I have. Well, word of Linux open source project quickly spread around the globe, and developers from all over contributed their code. Linus named his OS kernel Linux and chose a penguin as its mascot, after a little incident at the zoo. He soon made a very important decision that would shape Linux's future just as much as the technology. He chose the GPL license created by a visionary named Richard Stallman. The Linux kernel, along with the GPL license and other GNU components, revolutionized the computing industry with a few very simple yet very important freedoms. The freedom to use the software for any purpose. The freedom to change the software to suit your needs. The freedom to share the software with your friends and neighbors. And the freedom to share the changes you make. These radical ideas fueled its spread around the world, and somewhat paradoxically, its rise from a hobbyist experiment to the foundation of a large and thriving commercial ecosystem. Companies built businesses around Linux. In 1999, Red Hat's stock tripled as it became the first Linux company to go public. That same year, IBM spent $1 billion to improve and advertise Linux.
Does he have a name? His name is Linux.
Soon, Linux was knocking out industry heavyweights and fueling the rise of the internet with its free software. In short, Linux revolutionized computing. But whenever something is this disruptive, there's bound to be competitive crossfire. But Linux not only survived, it thrived. Today, the kernel development community numbers in the thousands, with hundreds of companies collaborating on Linux development. Every 3 months, another version of Linux is released. So, where is Linux today? Running in 75% of stock exchanges worldwide, and powering the servers that deliver Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, eBay, and Google. You use Linux literally every time you surf the internet. It's in your phone, in your TV, running 95% of supercomputers, and in many of the devices you use every day. Linux is everywhere. And the Helsinki-based programmer who started it all? He orchestrates this worldwide army of developers from his home office in Portland, Oregon, as a fellow at the Linux Foundation. As we celebrate 20 years of Linux, we can all see ourselves in its story. Thank you for being a part of its first 20 years.
That was amazing, Dor. That was very... I love the way they did the video, how the drawings and everything just communicated so well. It's very easy to understand.
Right, and I liked how the audio really said the point. The video was just there for flair, I guess.
Yeah, but the combination really helped, and it really professionally put together. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, the Linux Foundation, they're basically the guys behind the kernel with Linus Torvalds. Every 3 months, basically, there's a new kernel release version.
So Linus is still at the helm. Like he still has a lot to do with the way things go.
From what they say, he is not a hardcore kernel developer per se. He's more the guy at the gate. When they want to put patches through to the kernel, they basically have to meet his blessing.
Really? They do?
He's made it clear he wants, his main goal is as light as possible, but as flexible, diverse, and powerful as possible as well.
What does he think about Ubuntu?
I'm sure he feels like it's great in the fact that it's bringing more people into it, but I can tell you he is a Fedora user. He's much more of a command line guy. I don't think nice way I can put it, I don't think he appreciates the gooiness that Ubuntu is stretching out to trying to accomplish.
I see.
I don't, from everything I hear, I don't think he appreciates closed source codecs for software.
I see.
And it isn't that he thinks installing a Adobe Flash is evil. I think he's mad at we have to install Adobe Flash.
I see.
I think he's more upset at the need for it rather than it itself.
I was just curious. Interesting.
Yeah, he's definitely very cool. He's very grounded. I really like every time I hear him speak about how he says things. And I really do feel like he has the best intentions. You know how the road to hell is paved with great intentions. He purposely, once in a while, does something. Okay. I'll say this, Steve.
Yeah.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Nice guys never finish first. You know, all that kind of cliche talk. There's a certain amount of truth to it. I don't know if you feel like I feel, but I believe there's a certain amount of truth to it. So I made it a goal of mine back when I was 8 or 9 years old, to a couple minutes a day, to do my best to be a flat out friggin' jerk. I believe it extends my life.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Okay, I tried. But once in a while, Torvalds appears to me to do something a little, I don't want to say egotistical or self-centered, but once in a while he does things because he wants to do them, not necessarily because they're the best.
Right. Because
of that, I honestly feel like what we have in the Linux kernel is better for it. In the end, the rough corners get sanded down. You know what I mean?
Right.
They get more curbed, and I think it actually adds to the functionality in the kernel after time. A lot of the things that he has really been not liking is a lot of kernel bloat. I know for like the last 2 years, that's his really focus, is trying to cut down on all the bloat. Basically trimming the code, looking at 10,000 lines, how can we cut it down to 2,000 lines kind of thing.
I think it's smart. If you always have somebody on that, that's, you know, it's, I mean, you look at Windows and where it went with like Vista, you know what I mean? It's like you don't want to head that direction.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll say that they didn't make really clear in that video, there are thousands upon thousands of kernel hackers, as they're called, kernel developers. I believe less than a year ago, I heard some insanely large percentage, like 86 to 88% of those kernel developers are not people coming home from work and doing it for fun. They are people working at companies and getting paid for it.
Okay. They
work at all kinds of companies, from the obvious ones, Red Hat and IBM, but also at places like HP, developing drivers. And as long as they keep them open, there's a weird rule they just did in the kernel kind of thing. If your driver is completely open, it can be added to the Linux kernel, which means when you plug it in, like this Logitech DV9000, I plug it in, nothing has to be done. The support is built into the kernel. They also did a thing where they made an agreement, and Broadcom, the Wi-Fi manufacturer, is the first one I know that took advantage of this. They said, okay, Broadcom, you give us the complete source of your driver. We will put it in the kernel, but it will still be your private intellectual property. We will not let the source come out and like be on the street kind of thing from them. It's a weird thing that certain companies seem to like a lot, because they still want the warm feeling of I own my stuff and I still control my stuff.
Right.
But what it also does is the Linux Foundation then has kernel developers that can look at that source code and tweak and improve that and give it back to Broadcom or HP or anybody else. So it's really in the benefit of the company, in my eyes, to hop on that boat and allow, basically for free, improved driver development.
If they trust them.
Well, I'm sure there's NDAs and there's all kinds of things
Yeah.
that the kernel developers have to agree to. It's only to protect them and the Linux Foundation itself, because it isn't like they're Microsoft and they have multi-millions dollars worth of lawyers that you want to punch working for them. Okay. Again, complete change of topic here, Steve. It's actually a link I found on G-Hacks.
You be liking that G-Hacks, don't you?
It comes and goes in spurts, I'll say. When I'm on it hard, and I really like it a lot. And really the only thing at G-Hacks is the installation instructions. But if you go to ghacks.net and you just search for Grid Wars, what Grid Wars is, it's like Geometry Wars. That's the name of the game. I couldn't remember.
Uh-huh.
That was on, or I'm sorry, it's still on Xbox
360 arcade, right?
Yeah. And that basically got a lot of publicity because it was an Xbox arcade game. I believe it was free or very low price of entry kind of thing. This game gained a lot of popularity, and this is basically a duplication of the game.
Yeah, it's like exactly the same.
That's what the one guy at work said. He said, no. This is it. I said, well, no, it's a clone. He said, no. This is it. So he was happy with it. I'll say I tried to play it for a little bit. I didn't really understand what was going on.
Thought you just shoot things.
You basically just shoot things, but there's also like certain shapes going on, and
It looks cool.
It definitely looks cool. It looks sharp. It ran very smooth even on my 6-year-old hardware. So if you are a fan of Geometry Wars, you need to check out Grid Wars. And I'll say one big plus to Grid Wars is you can install Grid Wars at gridwars.maroon, I don't know, something.de.
Let's spell it out just in case.
Okay.
I think I got it here. This link: gridwars.marune.de. What is that? It's just a different place where you could just download it.
Well, this is the actual website of the people making it, and it's available for. Oh yeah.
This crappy site.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh! What did they use? Front page?
I don't think they used anything. I think they used
Notepad?
I think they used like a 6th grader. No, 4th grader.
It's amazing.
This is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux.
Neat.
I'm always a fan of multi-platform gaming.
Sure.
The next thing, honestly, I want to talk about it's only going to really make a small niche of people listening to this show happy. What this is, it's a link on everydaylht.com.
Yes.
Linux, I don't know. LHT stands for something, I don't know. But it's it's a tip link on how to launch virtual applications from the native Linux desktop. What this is basically you have your VM, your VirtualBox VM running in the background. And you can, from a desktop shortcut, launch a virtualized application from that virtual environment in your desktop environment like it's installed on your desktop environment. So you can be running Ubuntu 10, 11.04, whatever. You can have VirtualBox Windows 7 in a VirtualBox VM. You can have a desktop shortcut that says Internet Explorer. And using this tool called VMware, I'm sorry, this is VMware, not VirtualBox. I knew that, but I forgot that. Using VMware Unity Helper. VMware Unity Helper is basically a tool that allows your Linux install to communicate with the VMware VM through through VMware. I say it right. So with this tool, you can simply make a desktop icon for any application inside that VMware environment and launch it seamlessly in your Linux desktop like it was a native Linux application. This is how you can make virtualization much easier to consume for people who really don't like virtualization.
Right.
I go back and forth. Sometimes I feel like I need it. Sometimes I like it because I know it's a playground. I can go in there and mess stuff up. No worries, no fouls.
Right.
But I also appreciate even fooling my brain to, I'm in my desktop. I can now run any application I want without jumping through extra hoops. The gimmick is at boot time, I would launch the VMware VM in a headless mode. So my boot time would be slowed down kind of thing. But once I get up and rolling, it wouldn't be easy to notice that it was running in the background.
Right.
I just think, for the people that like VMs or have a need for a VM, this is the kind of thing you're going to want to use and abuse. And if you're not into VMs, let's move to the next topic. The next thing, honestly, Steve, I'm kind of mad at myself because I know we've been doing this show for 40 weeks now. I know I missed the last time this happened, and I'm really upset at myself. This is called the Humble Indie Bundle. And what the Humble Indie Bundle is, I know I mentioned it the last time, but it was after the fact. The Humble Indie Bundle is a collaboration between independent game developers. These independent game developers put their games in a basket. You as a consumer walk up and you can pick any 5 of those games you want, and you pay whatever you want. You can pay a penny, you can pay $1, you can pay $1,000. You pay whatever you want, and this is, again, every application has to be cross-platform, Windows, Mac, and Linux. The last time they did it, I can tell you, I'm not going to get these numbers exact, but I'm going to get them close enough. The typical Windows users paid $8 per package.
Mm-hmm.
The typical Mac user paid $6 per package.
Mm-hmm.
And the typical Linux user paid $11.80 per package.
What do you expect from the Mac user? They don't have any money left.
Well, and honestly, this is kind of leaning towards one of my core beliefs about a lot of things in business related.
Yes.
In the end, the customers will always feel happy with paying a certain amount. And if you're paying $4,000 for your desktop computer, you do not want to pay again for anything involving that computer.
Right.
If you're paying, $2,000 for your computer, and then you're paying $1,000 in business software and server support and all this other kinds of crap because you're on Windows, you can afford to pay a little bit more in software. If you're in a Linux environment and you can literally go in a dumpster, pull a computer out, and install your operating system,
not that you're
willing. I have. You're willing to pay more for games. You're willing to pay more for software, I'll say, especially if you deem it's worthy. The Humble Indie Bundle has been going on now for, I think, 2 years. So it's basically grown in popularity. So now more game makers are trying to get involved with it, I believe. If you at all like playing games, and if you have any worries, concerns about, how much should I pay for this? You can do this. Go through the process and pay $1. Download those 5 games. If you really like those games and you really felt like they're worth more money, go back a second time and buy it and pay what you think you owe.
Yeah, good point. That's a great way of doing it. It's like these games look amazing too. I'm playing the video. They look freaking awesome. These are games I would enjoy.
Yeah, let me tell you something. for the very first iteration of the humble indie bundle, there was a little choice and there wasn't a lot going on with it. With every iteration of it, which now I think it's like 4 or 5 times, exponentially better, sharper games, better gameplay, looking better. I mean, the last go around was just like 3 months ago, I want to say, and people were freaking out about how good it was. Here was the other plus. The last time around, I don't know about this time around. Last time around, if you bought the Humble Indie Bundle, I think it was 2, you got the Humble Indie Bundle 1 also at no cost.
Really?
It was thrown into the package. It wouldn't shock me at all if you buy this one and you get the first 2 at no additional cost.
Wow. This is great. I'm going to buy this tonight, in fact.
And the best thing is it's cross-platform. So you now, technically, if you have a Mac and a Windows and a Linux box, I honestly think they intend you to buy it. Let me say it like this. They would like it and appreciate it wholeheartedly if you bought it once for each of those operating systems. I don't think you have to. I think you just buy it the once, and then you can go back and download. Well, now I'm on Mac, download the Mac version.
I see. You know what? You know what they're doing? Look, check out this graphic. You're allowed to adjust how much money to each developer of each game you want to give them. There's little sliders for each game. Like if you like one game better than the other, you could adjust your slider higher for that dude.
Dude, that would make me want to make the best game possible.
Seriously, that's really cool. Great games. Humble Indie Bundle. I'm there.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing, to be honest, if you miss out on it this time, don't be mad. Don't be upset. It will happen again, as long as
they they make money.
Well, they have till December 2012, and they should be good by then. By then, we'll have it again.
Very cool.
Well, if John Cusack was right about anything. Okay.
Is that a reference to a 80s John Cusack movie? Because I missed all that.
No. This was a 2008 bad John Cusack movie.
Which one?
2012.
Oh, gosh.
Dude, that movie was so bad. That movie was so bad. I really watching it with my wife. I kept saying I should be drunk right now.
You know what blows me away about those movies? What do they call them? Like disaster porn movies?
Yeah.
When all this horrible stuff's happening. I'm talking like horrible, cataclysmic, life-ending stuff is happening. And like, so there's all these like cliffs opening up in the middle of the road. And you know what cracks me up about it? They're all in horror, right? Until they like make it over one of the cliffs. They succeed in doing something, and then they start cheering. Like they're actually like enjoy that they beat like one part, but the whole world's still ending and everything's going on, but they're happy like they made it over that cliff. They're cheering, giving each other high fives. That blows me away. That just makes it super faker.
Oh yeah. There's little doubt in my mind. Not if those events were actually even mildly taking place, 99.999999999% of the people in the world would just mentally break down to the point where they couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Much less fly a plane around, everything flying around you and all this disaster stuff going on. Much less cheer when you get away.
Yeah, cheer when you get away. Yippee! It's ridiculous. I don't know, though, Dor. I don't know, though, Dor. I think some people would freeze, but I think some people would snap into action. Because I think most people are kind of in a semi-daze as they go through their life, and this would be a wake-up call. I bet people would become so alert that they would do things that they never thought they could do that were possible.
I think yes, but I think it's a very small percentage.
Okay. I hope we never find out.
Because I believe like you, but I'll say a huge majority of the people are walking through in a daze of, I gotta get home, I gotta watch Jersey Shore, I gotta get home, I gotta watch Jersey Shore.
Right, right.
Kind of stuff.
Okay.
But I digress.
Yes.
Well, last thing I want to talk about, I kind of mentioned a couple months ago about this evil, maniacal company called SCO.
Yes.
Should be called Scab. Who basically was patent trolls who were claiming they had unequivocal evidence and proof that the Linux kernel people copied code from Unix, and we own Unix, and Lennox, you guys, you owe us money and you're patent infringing and
Right.
all this kind of stuff. Microsoft also, by the way, said Linux is all kinds of patent infringement kind of thing. But every time the Linux Foundation or anyone else from Linux says, show me what patents you're talking about. You're infringing on our patents. But yeah, what patents are you talking about? Squirrel. Kind of stuff. I'm happy to say the SCO case is finally over. Judge basically said, complete crap. Nothing here is factual or worthy of any time or effort from the court, which, by the way, I'm sure it cost us taxpayers millions of dollars. This was long. This was drawn out. The court fees alone are probably enough to make me sick.
Yes.
But Grok Law was basically they were an important role in this SCO versus the Linux controversy thing, and I'm happy to say everybody keeps saying SCO is no more, SCO is done, their history, they're out of business kind of thing. I've heard this I think twice in the last 4 years, 5 years or so. So I don't necessarily believe it until I don't hear from them for like 3 years.
They need to just get a life. That's bottom line.
Honestly, you know, if I had absolutely no talent and I wanted to do nothing for the rest of my life, I'd turn into a patent troll.
No,
because I would just sit here. Because I mean, think of it. You don't have to do anything. You just sue.
Would you feel? You wouldn't feel good about yourself.
No, I wouldn't at all.
You wouldn't do it.
No, I would have a habitual narcotic habit, probably, if that happened. But I'm really happy to say none of my immediately family members were behind SCO because I would have punched them in the face.
I believe you.
But it looks like they're gone and everything's done. This court case now is null and void, which really in the long term things, it's just like a bump. You know, the bump in the road is done with. Next month, 6 months from now, there'll be somebody else claiming patent infringement.
Right. They could take a little win on this. You know, at least regroup a little bit, have a little cake and a party, and wait for the next thing to happen.
Yeah, and I think honestly, a little bit of this is good. Man, I'm going to get hate. Now, if there's ever a time I'm going to get hate mail, it's right now. That's why I'm saving it for the end of the cast. Hopefully, those people already stopped listening. A little bit of this is good, I think, because it draws the Linux community together, at least to focus some rage against one unifying factor.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's like, you know what? I hate to say it, but it's kind of like what 9/11 did for the U.S. Unite. You have to have like a major disaster. And I'm not saying condoning this, but you have to have a major disaster to bring everybody together.
Yeah,
of some sort.
I'll say never did I love my country as much as I did as September 12th, you know, the day after.
Exactly. This is at linuxinsider.com. What's the name of the article, Dor? Grok Law, Grok Law, Groclaw, calling it quits after a job well done. Awesome.
Yeah.
Emails? Or you?
Oh yeah. I forgot.
No, that's cool. We are actually doing pretty good today. But I mean, is that it for your? That's where the notes end. But do you have anything else before we go to emails? Or
honestly, the only email thing I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if you got it or not. We got a while before this.
Yeah.
But if there's ever a Linux Fest that you could go to, Steve.
Yes.
This might be the one. This is combination as close to you and as big and as full of an event as possible.
Okay.
It's in Carolina.
Carolina?
I know that's not very close.
South or north?
99% sure South Carolina. Yeah, it has to be South Carolina.
I'll go if you go. Aha! Oops, sorry, I just scared the hell out of my cat.
Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Okay.
June 10th through June 12th. So you have plenty of time. Don't try to nail me down to an answer now. A lot could happen between now and then, Steve.
June 12th? All right. We'll talk
Yeah,
about
I mean, the world could end and I might be forced to fly a plane. But honestly, this is definitely one of the... this thing's only 2 years old. This thing has only been happening for 2 years, and everybody who's gone agrees this is one of the best, bar none, Linux Fest, and it's at Southeast linuxfest.org. The guy behind this is Dave Yates, who I've mentioned more than a couple times. Besides being an extremely nice guy every time I've talked to him, dealt with him online kind of thing, super classy guy. He really does pour his heart into this event, and everybody who's went said nothing but tremendously good things about it. Last year, he spread himself, the event, and the talkers thin. What I mean by that is he basically says now he almost had too many speakers and too many paths. This year, he's going to trim back just a little bit so it's a more controlled environment.
Good.
But he's going to have, amongst other things, I know, to speak to your interest, there is going to be a Drupal camp where it's basically just going to be how to do what you want to do in Drupal, from custom themes, custom modules. Also, I believe it's going to be like, I can't remember what the word for it is. It's like a focus path if you want to make a web blog. Here's how they're doing it to make a blog. If you want to make an online store,
right,
and take you through steps, modules kind of thing, and take you step by step on how to get through those processes. Drupal camps, from everything I've heard, if you have any interest in website development, it's a good thing to go to these. I would really like to go.
All right. You got time.
Yeah.
If this is the one to go to, then I might go.
Well, this and the Ohio Linux Fest seem to be the two big ones for users to go to and not businessmen to go to, kind of thing. And this is much closer to you than Ohio.
Oh, yeah, much. Thank you for thinking of me, Dor.
I do my best.
All right, let's read this one here. This is from SCR John. Hey, Steve and Steve. I haven't written in for a while, but still never miss an episode. I'm still pursuing my network specialist degree, and I'm taking an advanced Unix/Linux scripting class this quarter. My question is for Steve M. Is what utility would he suggest using for scripting? We are using the VIM editor and gedit in class, but I'm sure with most things there's a better way, and I figure Steve would be the one that knows. Also, a quick thank you to Steve C. for the laptop repair videos. I just successfully completed my first screen replacement on an HP DV8 1000. Also, thanks to the website builder and Google AdWords, my part-time computer repair business is doing well, as it can be, considering I work full-time and go to school. Thanks again, guys, and keep the great info coming. SCR John. John, well, thank you very much for supporting the network, by the way, by buying those things. I'm glad they're helping you. That's my piece. Now let's turn it over to Dor to answer your question.
Yeah, I also say laptop repair videos is one of those things. Few things in the world can you spend as little money with, yet make as much money off of.
Right.
It really is kind of a anomaly in life, because rarely do you ever see this actually come to fruition, kind of thing.
Thanks, Dor.
Because there's many fake people on TV infomercials promising you can make. I don't want to, hear. Okay. Scripting tools. Scripting tools is like women. Since we started talking about brochachos earlier, okay. Scripting tools, text editors are like women. It's very subjective, okay? There are people out there who, if you go up to them and tell them they have to use Vim, you might get punched in the mouth. Where there's the same people out there where if you go and tell them they have to use some other tool, you know, you might get punched
somewhere else.
Yeah. Basically, the world of scripting editors, or text editors is really what it is wide. Wide. There are GUI ones and command line based ones. The basic GUI ones are like LeafPad, gedit, I want to say Scribus was the name of one of them. To me, there's only one GUI one to really use. Vim is GUI, but it has its really roots in command line. But GUI, gedit, does a absolutely phenomenal job of doing syntax highlighting and colorization of text. And it does it just because, like, based on the file extension, if it's .sh, which is your typical shell scripting script, it will color code all that and make it a little bit easier to use. For anyone very serious about scripting, if you mention gedit, you will lose all credibility.
Okay.
Scripting is really a black magic alchemy kind of thing where you really are good at it. You're a scripting guy. You know, it's a talent. It's really a talent that not enough people have. And everyone who's really hardcore into scripting either use Emacs or Vim.
Okay.
And there's nothing else. Virtually every Linux distribution you install, from the lightest of the light, if you drop to a terminal and type VI and hit enter, it's there. It comes out of the box. It's there. I will say advanced scripting tools like that require a little bit of knowledge to use. So I would suggest start out light. Gedit is a good starting jumping off point. When you first delve into command line interfaces, I would suggest looking at Nano. It's like the gedit of command line. It's very easy to use. But prepare yourself to get into deeper, more hardcore tools like VI or Emacs. Vim, I'm 99% sure, is a GUI wrapper around VI, which has less functionality from than the command line version.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and try to use Vim. No matter what you use, you're going to have to go sooner or later to VI or Emacs. It's just the law of the land.
Okay. I didn't realize you were that knowledgeable on that door. That's pretty amazing, actually.
Scripting is such an art form, dare I say. Because in Linux the command line is so powerful. Anything imaginable you can do via script. From the Hubble telescope, I guarantee you accepts scripts, and the Large Hadron Collider accepts scripts, and on the Android device I can do scripts. Everything accepts scripts.
It's all about scripts. Thanks, Dor. Thanks for the question, John. Let's read this one from Tim. He says, in episode 33, you had an email from somebody running an ancient Windows ME box asking about installing Linux. My main machine is a Gateway laptop, 800 megahertz Celeron, arrived 9/11/2001, a harbinger of a date. That came with Windows ME, but it has been happily running Debian stable for the last 5 to 7 years. I upgraded the 128 meg of RAM, maxing it out at 384, and replaced the clinky-sounding 10 gig hard drive with a 120 gig drive. The dial-up modem is the only trouble I've had, but since switching to broadband, it's not been an issue. I use Fluxbox as my window manager and prefer Abbey Word and Numeric, that's GNUMERIC, GNumeric, over the open/LibreOffice suite as their lighter. Hope this helps, and that's from Tim. That does help, I would say.
Yeah, I'll say modems back in the day were the bane of Linux users' existence.
Really?
Win modems, WIN modems.
Yes.
They were cheaper than normal modems, so they took over absurdly. You needed basically a Windows kernel to communicate with them.
Oh, what a blockage point, because that's how you got to the internet back then. That probably did major damage to the expansion of Linux, didn't it?
Oh, it made it. You had to have such dedication to get it working.
Really? It's like building a Hackintosh.
Yep.
Only thing I could relate to that, actually. Okay, this is from anything else on that, Door? From Tim?
I gotta say, if he's using that long of an installation of Debian, that should tell anybody familiar with computers, Debian is the stable. Nothing is more stable than Debian ever made for computers.
5 to 7 years. Come on now. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Tim. This is from Ray. Just got this one in today. Hey, fellas, love the show. It being one of 4 that I regularly listen to in the Linux world. We are getting bumped up in the podcast rankings, I have to admit, Dor. Every week I look, we're a little higher. He says, I especially like the free and easy style. I've noticed that when I go into your current show, there's no show notes under it. But when I go into your earlier shows, everything is listed under the download MP3 button. Yeah, we have I just posted that one. That's why there's no show notes under it. Paul is handling the heck out of things, and his notes are up to date. And thank you, Paul, for doing the notes. As the shows keep coming out, we will have the notes up after I post the shows. He says, please also remember that we are a worldwide community, so references to some aspects of life in the U.S., i.e., your weird form of rugby or rounders, may need some explanation to your neighbors over the pond in Europe or on the other side in Asia. Have fun, Ray. Thanks a lot, Ray. We'll try to remember that. Not that we'll be able to relate in any way to what you do over there.
I know. I'll just make sure when I say lingerie football, brassiere pig oval game. I don't know how else to explain it.
That's great. Yeah, could you? I would like to see lingerie soccer too. Now that he brings it up like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, we think we're on to something. All right, me and Dora are going to talk after the show. This is a business idea here.
Right, and I'll say, technically speaking, my mother's side, I'm only second generation in this country. With that said, I only really have experience with this side of the pond kind of activities. I'm sorry if once in a while I feel like I'm leaving a percentage of the listeners out. But you emailing me that alone is what I need, because without me knowing a certain percentage of people are listening overseas, then I'm going to not know it.
Yeah. Thanks for raising our awareness, Ray. And Dor will make the necessary changes in what he talks about now. Mm-hmm. And he now has a regimen of learning some language from over the pond, as well as customs, and we'll make sure that that's implemented. Right, Dor?
Yep. The one saying I know, mind your head.
I looked up some words in the dictionary today that were British only. I can't remember where they were, but all right.
Rubber?
It wasn't rubber. It was bitters. No, bitter. Bitter is a type of beer in the UK, like lager is here.
Ah.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for the emails. No voicemails. If you do want to send us emails, guys, send them to mail@podnutz.com. They will go to me. If you know it's for Dor and that I will have nothing to contribute to the email, you can send it directly there. It might get there faster. Send it to door-to-door-geek@gmail.com or door-to-door-geek@podnutz.com. Right? Is that what it is?
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you want to send us a voicemail, call the phone number 7076-PODNUT. That will give you straight into the voicemail. You don't have to worry about anybody picking up. Don't be afraid. It will go right to voicemail. Leave your recording. We will play it on the show. And that's going to wrap it up for this show for today. Dor, what would you like to end off on?
I'll just say, if you want to throw this out there, one of my other podcasts, Linux Basics, one of the guys involved had, to me, it's sheer genius idea. If you go to linuxbasics.com. There's a new feed there on the right-hand side. I believe it's called Classic. Classic Oddcast, I believe it's called. What this is it's basically it's called a greatest hits. Anything 2 to 3+ years old or older that we think is really educational or really entertaining, the community over there, we're going to put in this feed. I honestly believe this is a very, 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 very beginning of a very easy way to learn a lot of stuff. And we're basically, I mean, this stuff is old, but we're just going to once every week put a new old cast in the list.
Awesome. It's a cool idea.
Yep. And we're going to always link back to the original file, so the original maintainer will see the hit on it.
Cool. It's pretty awesome. All right. Anything else, Dor? Where can people find you?
They can go to doorgeek.com. That site, I can tell you, is going to have a major overhaul here, hopefully within a week or two. Besides that, you can hit me off on twitter.com, Identica, Facebook, Podnutz forums, Podnutz Lounge, TeamSpeak. I need to spend more time in that TeamSpeak. Something tells me Fubar Johnny's talking bad about me.
Oh, man, we got to get to the bottom of this. I don't know anything about it, otherwise I'd tell you publicly.
I just like messing with Fubar Johnny.
All right. Well, thanks, Dor, as usual, for the awesome goodness and the awesome show. And everybody for watching and listening and streaming and absorbing, assimilating the content here. I appreciate it. And that's going to be it for Linux for the rest of us. For today, we will see you next week.